Agatha Christie's tape measure murder. Dramatized by Joy. Wilkinson, Mrs. Spenno. Hello. Hello, Mrs. Spenno. Miss Harello. Miss Poet. Good afternoon. I apologize for bothering you, but do you know if Mrs. Spenno might be out? I have no idea. It's a bit awkward, really. I was scheduled to fit her new dress at 3:30 this afternoon, and I thought perhaps she might have left and simply forgotten. It's the maid's day off. I suppose she may have just dozed off. You likely haven't made enough noise. Have you? No, she must have gone out after all. I'll come back another time. Nonsense. She couldn't have gone out. I would have seen her in the village. I think I'll just take a quick look through the windows to see if there are any signs. What is it? I believe it's Mrs. Spenno. I think she's dead. Oh no, Bunch, please keep the windows shut. Now come along, Aunt Jane. Dr. Hawk advised me to take things easy. He also mentioned you're feeling better. Your fever has subsided. You need to start getting back to normal. Normal? Why would I want to return to being just an old woman? Yes, he did say that depression was a common aftermath. You are a lovely goddaughter, Bunch, but you should really be at the rectory with your husband. You have your entire future ahead of you while what you truly require is to get out of your own head. Distract yourself with something else. Why not sort through your wardrobe and decide which clothes you want Miss Pollitt to alter for you? You've lost quite a bit of weight. I don't want my clothes altered. I don't want to get dressed. What about this new book from Raymond? He sent it especially to uplift your spirits. I can't think of anything more likely to make me miserable than his dreadful tales of unpleasant young men and women murdering one another for no valid reason. I'm sure it's rather modern, but I am sadly stuck in a Victorian mindset. Oh, just start on the book. I'll return shortly. The Night on Noose. Mickey despises Cynthia. Cynthia loathes Betty. Betty detests Mickey. There's only one exit from this murderous triangle of emotions. The book will have to wait. Miss Harrell is here to see you. Oh, tell her I'm too unwell for visitors. She won't take no for an answer, and I believe you will want to converse with her. Mrs. Spenno has been murdered. She's lying on the half rug in the sitting room in her kimono, strangled. Would you like some tea, Arch? No, thank you, Bunch. Please, continue, Miss Harrell. And fortunately, I managed to maintain my composure. That Pollitt person wouldn't have the slightest clue what to do. To maintain control, I instructed her to remain put while I went to get the authorities. One must not waver with individuals of that nature. In my experience, they tend to relish the drama. Just then, as I was about to leave, who should appear rounding the house but Mr. Spenlow? What was his demeanor? Honestly, my instincts raised a flag immediately. He was unusually composed upon our initial encounter and reacted with surprising calmness after receiving the tragic news. Throughout the situation, he exhibited no sign of astonishment. You may argue differently, but it is simply not normal for a man to be informed of his wife's death and show no outward emotion. Perhaps he was in a state of shock, but it seems more plausible that his thoughts were consumed by the matter of the inheritance. Naturally, all her money was his, and she willed everything to him. That certainly raises suspicions. I am convinced that Arthur Spenlow is involved, yet for some unexplained reason, he has yet to be taken into custody. This is why I decided to visit you. Inspector Slack mentioned he would not pursue any further steps until he had a word with Miss Marple. Oh, Edna is out gathering supplies. I should go get her. I don't understand why Inspector Slack wishes to talk to me. That is precisely my question. It is Inspector Slack who seeks your presence. What did I tell you? Allow me to escort you out, Miss Harner. Oh, what? Immediately? Well, yes, I suppose I must comply. Will you be sure to inform me of what he says? Oh, I doubt it's anything significant. Thank you for stopping by. Now, regarding tea. Mr. Arthur Spenlow, the widow of Dorothy Spenlow, provided this statement to me. He disclosed that at around 2:30, or as best he can recall, he received a call from Miss Marple requesting his presence at 2:45, as she was eager to discuss something with him. Is that accurate, Miss Marple? Absolutely not. You did not contact Mr. Spenlow at 2:30, either then or at any other point. What else did he mention? He stated that he came here as requested, departing his residence at 2:50, but upon his arrival, the maid informed him that Miss Marple was resting and should not be disturbed. That part might be truthful. Edna was indeed instructed that I wasn't seeing anyone until Mrs. Harmon arrived to override my decision. Mrs. Harmon likely arrived around 3:30, by which time if Mr. Spenlow came over, he would have already left. He asserts that he took a brief walk by the river and returned home via the back gate. Inspector, do you harbor suspicions about him being responsible for his wife's murder? You know I cannot disclose any such information. Information at this point, Miss Marple, oh, indeed. Not that I wish to intrude, but since my name has come up in this situation, I am merely trying to fathom why on earth Mr. Spenlow would make such statements about me that aren't accurate. Well, let's just say it appears to me as if someone without naming names has attempted to be clever and has not succeeded. There's a pin on your jacket. What? Oh yes, my grandmother always said, see a pin and pick it up. All day long you'll have good luck. Well, I hope that will indeed become true. I have no doubt it will, Miss Marple. I trust we will have our suspect by the day's end. Now, if you'll excuse me, I should go locate Edna and find out if Mr. Spender really was here at all and if he was, for how long. Would you like me to prepare something for you to eat, Jane? How about a sandwich? Did Edna say anything regarding Mr. Spenlow? She mentioned he had stopped by shortly before my arrival. He seemed a bit disoriented but continued on his way. That does seem to align well with what he conveyed to Inspector Slack, though isn't that precisely what Mr. Spenlow would have done if he were acting in his own interests? I might have a piece of toast if it's not too much trouble. I knew you'd start to feel an improvement being up and about. I've always had a favorable opinion of Mr. Spenlow. Perhaps that's not entirely accurate. When I first encountered him, there was something amiss. He so evidently had lived in towns all his life, it felt unusual that he would come to live here. But then I saw him one day tending his roses, and he confided in me that since he was a young boy he had always dreamed of living in the countryside and having his own garden. He adored flowers. In fact, that is where he first met his wife when she was working in the flower shop. I never realized that was their story. How romantic! Of course, like many who eventually realize their childhood aspirations, he was poorly suited for it, at least initially. He had no understanding of seeds, cuttings, planting annuals, or perennials. He frequently sought my guidance and carefully recorded my advice in a small book. His garden is stunning now, filled with all those delightful fragrances. Yes, he achieved his vision. Mr. Spenlow is a man of endurance and determination, but I do wonder if his vision included Mrs. Spenlow. The Rose Bay willow herb must be blooming now all along the riverbank. He often takes a stroll back that way after visiting me. I suppose we will have to await Inspector Slack's decision on whether to arrest him. Would you prefer jam or marmalade? No, neither, thank you. I think I will take a. I made my way to the Rose Bay Willow Hub to meet Arthur. Spenno could very well be a murderer under suspicion, and he is certainly clever enough not to seal his fate by killing me. I don't care. I don't trust him or you. You've been unwell. I'm accompanying you and I won't accept a refusal. I wasn't Dorothy's first husband. Dorothy used to be a maid in a large London estate, Sir Robert Abiar's place. Oh yes, I've heard about it, gorgeous gardens, I've been told. Well, it seems Dorothy must have thought that as she left to marry the second gardener, launching a flower shop alongside him. He fell ill and passed away, but she continued with the shop and did quite well. That's how she earned her money. None of it belonged to me. I had inherited a small jewelry business, yet it never flourished. I shut it down shortly after our marriage so that you could manage the flower shop together, albeit for just a little while. My wife sold her business and invested the money, guided by her first husband's spirit. I had no idea she was a spiritualist. She consistently attended Sunday services. Julian had her down as Church of England. She was that too. Dorothy was very open about such beliefs. I regret to say I'm not, so I didn't delve into it much. After she invested the money, that's when you transitioned to St. Mary. Exactly. We envisioned what life here would be like. Me tending to my garden, her engaging with village happenings, playing bridge, attending church. We did everything we could to make that a reality. Yet there were still aspects of you both that didn't quite align with the vision. I have found happiness here. Dorothy struggled more, yet we managed to get along fairly well. You don't suspect I murdered my wife, do you, Miss Marple? The police do, as does half the village, but I truly didn't. I would never. I know that's what I would claim, which is why I tried to limit what I said to others, merely discussing the facts or what I perceived to be the facts. I honestly thought it was you who would contact me. Sounded like you. Well, not exactly, but reflecting on it, I recognized you'd been unwell. So I attributed it to that situation. When your maid informed me you were not receiving visitors, I assumed you had suffered a setback. I intended to bring you some flowers when I returned, having Mrs. Spenno create a beautiful bouquet. But I'm truly sorry, Miss Smart. Mrs. Heron? Oh, not at all, Mr. Spenno. It must be incredibly distressing. I was genuinely fond of my wife. I assure you, I feel her loss very profoundly. I simply was not raised to exhibit outward displays of emotion. That was my uncle. Harry's principle was to never show feelings. He possessed remarkable emotional restraint and had a profound appreciation for flowers. They suspect I strangled her with my belt. They confiscated it as evidence. You might receive your belt back eventually, Arthur. I don't know, he's been exceedingly clever. There's a lack of evidence, which is why I couldn't inform Inspector Slack nothing that would support my case. It would only serve to further implicate me if I tried to divert blame. Divert it to whom? To Ted Gerald, I suppose. You know, there's been no proof of such things, but certainly there has been speculation. Look at the willow herb. It's quite lovely. I can understand why he would have returned this way. Regarding Mrs. Spenno and Ted Gerald, I didn't hear any rumors. People likely didn't want to offend you or Julian. Remember the atmosphere when you first arrived at the village? Julian's sermons had a captivating effect. Ladies attended both morning and evening services and became significantly engaged in parish activities. All those slippers and scarves made for him were quite embarrassing. I think Julian enjoyed it and I found it amusing and flattering, though I knew it wouldn't last. Once they became accustomed to him, not that he isn't intriguing, people often begin to take things for granted. It wasn't that they undervalued him. They simply redirected their affection towards someone else, one who was considerably more accessible. Ted Gerald had a religious aspect, charming looks, and a somewhat dubious history that seemed to attract some women. Embezzlement, if I recall correctly. He was never apprehended, but upon finding God, he admitted his wrongdoings and repaid his former employer. He lost his job and ended up here, relying on the charity of an elderly aunt and your husband's former admirers, including Mrs. Spano. Unlike her husband, she wasn't entirely anchored in the countryside. It was clear she was searching for something and was easily swayed by a young, charismatic figure. They spent considerable time together, and I've heard that she provided him with significant financial gifts. Yet, why would he murder her if she was supporting him unless perhaps she had declined any further financial assistance? Could have been about finances, or it might have stemmed from a classic crime of passion. Don't overlook what Mrs. Spano wore when she was killed, her kimono in the afternoon while her husband was away. They must have been involved, or perhaps not, but it's certainly worth investigating him. Oh no, Aunt Jane, I believe we've gathered enough information. We should return and share what we've discovered. No to Inspector Slam. I'm confident someone informed me that the ideal remedy was for me to be active and participating in something constructive, not a superficial tour of murder suspects. Mr. Spenlow was one case, but Ted Gerard is an entirely different story. He could be rather an aggressive young man, yes, I assume. He could be, but surely not towards a vice's spouse, and an elderly woman visiting him out of goodwill. New slippers, very considerate of you, Miss Murley, very kind indeed. And Mrs. Harmon, such a beautiful scarf. Don't mention it. Our pleasure, our beliefs may differ, but our Lord is constant. I'm grateful for the gesture. Oh, please make yourself comfortable. If you can find an open spot, do pardon the clutter. Oh, are you relocating? Yes, I regret to say, I've just returned from a group meeting in the city, and I've been asked to spread the message further afield. You know how it goes, Mrs. Harmon. Which train did you take into the city? The 207, and I've just arrived back, so you're unaware of the news regarding Mrs. Spano. Mrs. Spano, oh yes, I'm familiar with her. What news? She's been murdered. That's awful, poor woman. I must say a prayer for her. You knew her fairly well, I believe. I've made an effort to connect with the entire community. Some have been more receptive than others. Mrs. Spano, she was a truly good person grappling with various spiritual issues. I attempted to provide support. I wish she had felt she could reach out to us for assistance as well. What type of spiritual issues did she have? You know quite well that we counsel under strict confidentiality, Mrs. Harmon. All I can express is that I sincerely hope she has found peace, and I wish that a killer is currently battling with his conscience. I understand what it's like to do wrong, and I know that the sole path to redemption is to acknowledge one's guilt and become liberated. Now, if you'll excuse me, I really must proceed with my packing. What a pity it can't have been him. What leads you to say that? Well, for one, he wasn't present when it occurred. He might have been spotted at the station, but it would be quite simple, wouldn't it, to board the train and then exit from the other side before it even departs? What about the phone call to Mr. Spano? Wasn't that made at 2:30? Well, that could have been made by an accomplice. Ted Gerard wasn't going to confess anything to us, but perhaps Inspector Slack can question him before he makes his escape. He did intend to make his arrest today. What did I share with you, Miss Murley? By the end of the day, and it's not even time for dinner yet. Spenlow will soon find himself behind bars very shortly. What about Ted Gerard? I've sent Constable Poole to get a statement and inspect his belt, but the case against Spano is only getting stronger. Were you aware that his wife previously worked for the Abercrombies at Sir Robert's residence in London? That place was the scene of a major jewelry theft, with emeralds of considerable value disappearing from her handbag and never resurfacing. It appears Spano was a jeweler, well positioned to serve as the fence. Scratch the surface and you find a darker side to his persona. Yes, but he wasn't married to Mrs. Spano at that point. She was married to Sir Robert's second gardener, I believe. Mr. Spenno conceals much beneath the facade, but that alone doesn't make him a murderer. If this Ted Gerard narrative holds any truth, then Spenno would indeed have had even more incentive to eliminate her. Jealousy is a primary motive, and the inheritance would merely be a bonus. Did you uncover any evidence at the scene, Inspector? People generally don't leave behind fingerprints and cigarette ash these days, Miss Marple. That's true, but I suspect this was a classic crime. Excuse me for a moment, ladies. Oh dear, he may indeed be right. It does paint a rather incriminating picture for Mr. Spenno. If my mind hadn't been clouded by illness, I might have recognized this sooner and avoided all this hassle. Realized what? There you go, that's Ted Gerard's belt, and it's definitely not our murder weapon. How can you tell? Note the width. The belt used to strangle Mrs. Spenno was significantly narrower, matching Mr. Spenno's belt. I see, yes, that adds up. Apologies, Miss Marple, but you can't always be correct. You should head home and get some rest. It's best to leave this in my hands. What's going on there, Miss Marple? Oh, shall we continue walking? I could use a moment to sit down. You're not feeling ill again, are you, Jan? Oh no, I just need a little time to gather my thoughts. Oh, there you are, Miss Marple. I was beginning to fear you'd met the same fate. Your maid seems to have neglected her responsibilities. How many times has she come by? No more than half a dozen, but she has been slow to respond each time. I regret to say it, Miss Marple, but she's just another ineffective soul, much like Miss Pollitt. I can't fathom how these women manage to remain in service so long. Oh, I just remembered I asked Miss Pollitt to come by about your clothing. She must think us incredibly rude for not being here during her visit. Oh, I told her to leave and come back later. The last thing we need is her fussing around us. Now then, Miss Marple, you did promise to update me on what occurred with Inspector Slack. Sorry, could you please call back? Tomorrow there's an urgent issue I need to handle. Hopefully well, is it connected to the murder? Thank you, Miss Hartel. Sorry, I'd better. We'll see you tomorrow. Yes, I'll see you then. Oh, Bunch, could you please contact Miss Poet and ask her to come over? Now about the clothing, I believed you wanted some time alone to reflect. I've done my reflection and I want to see Miss Poet. It's nice to see you up and about. Miss Merrill, I'm sorry I missed you. Previously, Miss Poet, I heard about the incident and thought you would have forgotten all about me. Miss Harrell mentioned you were rather distressed. I'll need to take your new measurements. Do you have a dressing gown you could wear for me? Mrs. Spenno was found in her kimono when they discovered her body, so I heard from Miss Harner. Yes, that's what she indicated. I couldn't bring myself to look. Inspector Slack had a pin in his jacket that he retrieved from the crime scene. Actually, no need to change. We can proceed as you are. If you could lift your arms for me, please. Yes. He barely remembers. It's something he's been doing since he was a child, but you know, it wasn't just any pin. The one he found today was a particular pin, quite slender, the kind usually used by dressmakers. How about if you could turn around and face away from me? That's right. I noticed the pin immediately, but took me some time to understand its importance. What importance could a pin possibly hold? Now let's get your collar measurements. Head up, please. I suggest you reconsider before turning your tape measure into a deadly weapon again. And Inspector Slack is at the door alongside his team and my goddaughter, who is very worried about my safety. There's no escape, Miss Poet. No use attacking me. You might as well admit it. Admit to what? I had only just arrived at the residence. Miss Harrell saw me. It was Mr. Spenno who committed the act, as you adeptly orchestrated by calling him from the post office at 2:30 when the postmistress is preoccupied with the Letters arriving from the train you waited until he left. To visit me and then you went to see Mrs. Fenlow for her fitting and you arrived. Early strangled her with your tape measure and then exited the house only to approach again, ensuring Miss Hartle witnessed your return. Absurd. What possible motive could I have to kill Mrs. Spennow? She was my friend. Yes, it brings to mind my two cousins Anthony and Gordon. Whatever Anthony did always turned out well for him, while poor Gordon, it was just the alternative manner in which racehorses became incapacitated. The stock market declined, and real estate diminished in value. I believe you're still unwell, Miss Marple. I am skeptical that Inspector Slack is present. Good evening, Miss Pollitt, the lady's maid, along with the maid of the house. Each received a portion of the loot from the Abercrombie duel heist. One of them got married to the gardener and amassed a fortune from a thriving business. I often wondered where the funds originated for launching the florist establishment. As far as your portion of the proceeds goes, it must have felt similar to Gordon the unfortunate, still struggling to make ends meet as the local dressmaker. I can imagine you felt a tinge of jealousy when she settled down to enjoy a comfortable life. Despite being married to him, she was never content, especially after involving herself with Ted Gerard. She had a devout nature and was already grappling with fleeting moments of guilt. Gerard no doubt pushed her to confess about the burglary, even if it meant facing incarceration. She was prepared for that, but you weren't, were you, Miss Pollitt? So you took her life, and you wouldn't have cared if Mr. Spenlow had faced the gallows because of it. I would like to take that tape measure, thank you, miss. It wasn't my doing. The robbery was solely her plan. She coerced me into it. She reaped all the profits, and I was left empty-handed. Why should I be imprisoned? Why should I be held accountable for Mrs. Spenlow's murder? Take that away. Thank you, Miss Marple. I'm pleased to hear you're recovering. You owe it all to your grandmother. Find a pin and pick it up. Good fortune will come your way all day. Thank goodness for elderly women, right? Is there anything for dinner? I think I could manage a little. This is an adaptation of Agatha Christie's Tape Measure Murder, dramatized by Joy Wilkinson. Miss Marple was portrayed by June Whitfield, Bunch by Rosie Cavaliero, Inspector Slack by Stephen Critchlow, and Miss Harrell by Jessica Turner. Miss Pollitt was played by Allison Pettit, Mr. Spenlow by Sam Dale, and Ted Gerard by Chris Pavo. The direction was provided by Gemma Jenkins.